breaker, breaker into the black. This is Longhaul Preacher and I ain't going back.
It was a pretty typical spring for Cortez, Colorado. A bit of rain, lots of wind and dust, and yes, tons of those little critters called prairie dogs littering the ground. They're cute enough, but they can be a real pain, making mounds and holes all over the place. The crunch under the tires don't inspire me much either. One morning, I got it in my head to take a walk across the in-laws' acres. Being so close to St. Patrick's Day, I started humming to myself, just taking in the day, not really paying attention to what was going on around me. That is until I heard that odd barking chirp the prairie dogs make, right at my feet. I opened my eyes and looked down to find a group of them huddled around me. I kicked out, trying to get them to go away, but they would just back up, look at me again, and bark. A tractor pulled up nearby and shut down, those blasted critters still staring at me. "Hey, what you got there?" I heard Glenn call. "These furballs seem to think I have food for them or something," I called back. Now, Uncle Glenn is no dummy to the ways of the Four Corners, and he knows an opportunity when he sees it. He sat there thinking for a moment, started the tractor back up, and yelled, "Follow me!" I had no idea what he was thinking, but followed the tractor up and down and all around the hay fields until we came to the neighbor's field. By that time, I had so many prairie dogs around me that it looked like a good acre of brown fur. "Well, now what?" I yelled past the tractor motor. "Shoo 'em over," Glenn called back. I started shooing at the dogs, waving my hands like a lunatic and feeling ridiculous. And to my shock, they went, diving down into the prairie dog holes in the next field. "Well, I'll be," Glenn said, shutting down the tractor. "You and me both." The next day, though, I got an angry knock at the door. That neighbor fella weren't too happy about us sending the furballs into his field, so out I went again, and they followed me again. This time, what looked like 2 acres of solid fur waving across the ground like a rug in a spring gust, and I led them all and more as other neighbors watched, all pointing me off in another direction, down to the Ute territory. And I thought it would be the end of it. I was wrong. I could toss him to the Mesa Verde would implode. Taking him to Shiprock would make the rock ship unload. The sleeping Ute arose and pointed me clear away from him. So up the highway we continued, on to find a place for them.
May we invite you, shop at our store. We've General Electric products galore. The latest home freezers made by GE. The modern home freezers of top quality. Shop at our store today. We have a grand array. Your GE freezer is here.
Better meals are yours the whole year through with a new General Electric home freezer. Now over there in Utah, there's a place natives revere. It's a place of high, red rock and deep canyons that eventually opens up to the most beautiful river in the West, the Colorado. With Glenn driving, we slowly guided that growing mound of fur into Monument Valley and happened upon this place known as the Rainbow Bridge. And there, Glenn got a call to get back to the farm. It was a bit humiliating. Here I was, walking a trail with what looked like a crawling Sasquatch inching around behind me. Tourists were taking pictures. Birds seemed to be laughing. And a few natives started following as well. Now, one I recognized from the softball park, an old man who loved to watch the games. I never did know his name. "What's the word?" I asked. "St. Patrick," the old man returned. "Beg your pardon?" "You know the story of St. Patrick?" Not really, no." "Catholics say he drove vermin out of his homeland." "Well, not his homeland," I corrected. "And it was snakes." I looked back at the fur rug behind us. Not prairie dogs. You, St. Patrick. Not even close. You drive out vermin. To where? That's when I saw it. A giant rock bridge over the entry to the Colorado. And in the Colorado River, a large raft being finished by a group of natives. You're kidding me. Drive them out. On a raft? Drive them out. Like Huck Finn? Drive them out. With a sigh, I pointed to the raft. Sure enough, those strange little critters climbed aboard, the mound twice as high as the raft was wide, and I could even swear they waved goodbye as they floated down the river. Third strangest thing I'd ever seen. At least that was that. The natives all turned and left me to walk all the way back to Cortez by myself. Now, nobody remembered those days. When I got back, it was life as usual for the small community. Glenn was out in the field. I had some jobs lined up as well. I started to wonder if it was a dream until I got a letter from California in the mail. The letter was simple. Thanks. Wish you were here. Attached to it was a picture of that old man on a beach, and behind him, prairie dogs were building sand castles and sunbathing and splashing on the shore, even body surfing. Don't believe me? Neither do I. I threw it all out and never looked back. Besides, it's not like getting rid of one generation of prairie dogs actually puts a dent in the population. It just opens up the real estate. Ever hear about the prairie dog metropolis near Albuquerque? They were building a large movie theater, the largest of their kind at the time, something like 21 screens. The parking lot also had to be huge. They had been working hard at driving out the prairie dogs, but they seemed to keep popping up even through the asphalt. Finally, just as they were about to finish the building started to sink. An expert came in and rattled the ground with his machine, making a sonar map of what was going on underground, to find that they had built on a prairie dog mound that went deep underground like volcano mouth, wanting to swallow up the building in a large sinkhole. Can you imagine that? Thousands of the critters. Jeez. It's amazing they don't take over the world.